76 characters, 77 when you add Piranha Plant, 103 stages, nearly 900 songs, dozens of Pokemon, assist trophies, a new side mode dubbed Spirits, and a brand new adventure mode? Super Smash Bros. Ultimate doesn't stop looking more and more ultimate. The crazy thing is that Sakurai confirmed during the direct a few weeks ago is that DLC is confirmed for the game, and we're getting 5 brand new fighters along with 5 new stages and a bunch of new music to go along with them, and none of those fighters will be Echo Fighters. They will be original. Just recently, Sakurai also publicly tweeted out, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's DLC lineup is now complete. This time, the selection was made entirely by Nintendo. I decide if we can create a fighter based on their selection, then come up with a plan. It's great to dream about your favorite character joining the battle, and I appreciate your passion, but please try to stay on topic when replying to tweets and refrain from flooding us and other users with requests when we're not specifically asking for feedback. Thank you. The DLC's been finalized, Sakurai has his 5 characters for future release, and now we wait until the base game is finished with production so they can work on DLC. Not to mention, the man literally spoke English to tell you all to shut up and not blame me if this character doesn't get in as DLC. Stop harassing me with X character to be in the game. But really though, is it that hard to respect other people's choices and desires for DLC? But the question is, who's in that lineup? I think the only clue we have to go off of is Piranha Plant. Piranha Plant shows it's Sakurai's game and he'll do whatever the heck he wants. It also shows Sakurai wants to be creative and dynamic with the characters he has planned. And it also shows that literally anything can happen. Sakurai's an unpredictable force of nature. We don't know what to expect next. This could also be highlighted by the fact that Sakurai's a man who isn't really caught up in whatever rules him or the fandom makes. This character's too big to be in Smash. This character's not known to fight or isn't a fighter at all, so he/she wouldn't fit in Smash. This character has almost no history with Nintendo, so quit dreaming about this character. Or this character is ridiculously basic, generic, boring, and a moveset's impossible, or some other rule fans strictly abide by. The only rule officially made by Sakurai, and only rule is in quotes, was Ridley being too big, and even then he broke that. We try to wrap logical reasoning around certain characters' requests, additions, exemptions, etc. that most of the time, it not only revolves around development time, Sakurai will just do what Sakurai wants. Nintendo even gave Sakurai options for DLC, but Sakurai himself would determine whether a unique and fully fleshed out moveset can be applied to said character. It's all whether Sakurai agrees or not. This also ties into the recent made up rules of spirits mean this character cannot be in this game as DLC, or Mii costumes exempt this character from being in the game as DLC, or assist trophies are exempt as DLC. When Sakurai never said this himself. Spirits especially don't equal a character's cut because spirits are replacing trophies in Ultimate. If that were the case, Mewtwo and Lucas would have never been DLC given they had trophies in the base game of Smash 4 going off this logic, even if they were veterans. We also have spirits for male Wii Fit Trainer, Daisy, and King K. Rool already seen in the game. I have major doubts a PNG of this character would determine whether or not it's worth developing this character as a fighter. Mii costumes, you'd presume, aren't a big factor either, given we still have costumes for Chrom in this game, presumably some other characters as well, like in Smash 4. That, and apparel for Mii's versus developing characters is a very different process. It's not up against costumes of said characters. He worded how Rex was made because finalization of the roster came before Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and this Mii costume was to compensate, but that wouldn't really equate to Sakurai not developing Rex now as DLC when the time is right because a costume was made for him. His wording on Rex made it seem like he's not going to be in, and it's understandable, but given Nintendo's recommending DLC, Xenoblade 2 is the best-selling game in the franchise, it's also very relevant with its batches of DLC throughout this past year, and Sakurai himself elaborated on how great Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is. It might subject to change, however I wouldn't get my hopes up. There's reason to believe some Mii costumes won't be DLC as actual characters, but the intentions and words uttered by Sakurai aren't always absolute of a specific outcome. The same can be said for assist trophies, but they honestly feel like lost hopes and dreams because development on assists costs more time and resources than costumes or PNGs for spirits. They may not care about a character being both playable and an assist. I mean, we're talking talking a game where you could play 8 different variations of one character and beat all 8 of them up with one another. Robin's Final Smash still summons Chrom, where you can summon Chrom to beat up Chrom, and Chrom can clap for Chrom in this weird way. And Pokken Tournament broke this assist non-playable rule with Krogunk, despite being a different game entirely. So the idea of an assist trophy being playable isn't as silly as you think, but they still feel like the chances of them being playable via DLC are as big as winning the lottery twice in a row. I don't recommend investing into the possibility of assists being playable because based on precedent, they have never been added as DLC. The reason I'm specifying this is because it's still possible for you to get Shadow or Isaac into the game as DLC with Radical Highway / Space Colony Arc or a Golden Sun stage, even Waluigi just to completely swerve everyone, and Nintendo knows how popular the character is, whether based off memes or genuine love for the character, cause both do exist. It's just dependent on whether Sakurai will go for it despite this odds favoring even some assists being roughly 1% and most under that to non-existent. Then again, Sakurai loves making the unexpected or impossible possible. Of those fan rules, the Assist Trophy Prison is one of the few that's yet to be broken through DLC, and not by a sequel of a series, and Sakurai's broken multiple rules in the past via Isabelle, Cloud, Ridley, Villager, and or Piranha Plant. Again, with this man, anything can happen. So what exactly are the newcomers we're gonna get in this DLC, if anything can happen? Are they picks Nintendo themselves wanted specifically? Did Sakurai negotiate? Are they based solely off marketing for future games? Do some still involve popular picks with the fans? We have no idea. All we can do is hope and predict. I'm willing to bet with each character, they have to have some kind of stage to fit with them, otherwise there's little hope. And to be reasonable and fair, I'm predicting characters that aren't Mii's or assists. As much as I want Shadow in there, that's a 1 in a million unfortunately, though it can still happen. Sakurai doesn't want requests anymore, and this is heavily looking like these will be the last characters for the game. The crazy thing is, by the time we get all 5 characters, the roster will amount to 82 characters total, which is absolutely insane. Like, god damn, dude. But of my own predictions, the first I have is Gino. I still believe Gino has a viable shot based on popularity, Sakurai agreeing multiple times before he'd be a great fit for Smash, and he wanted to try putting him in Smash more than once, and he would be a good gunner type zoner for Smash Ultimate. They could rip his moves from Super Mario RPG, his stage could be Forest Maze, and the songs he'd get are Mario RPG specific ones. Between the Super Mario RPG game on the SNES and Mario RPG games like Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. There's also rumors of us getting a Square Enix character, and as much as Sora would be cool, Sakurai would have a whole other can of worms to deal with thanks to Disney and their rights to Sora as well. Gino would likely be the next best thing. Sakurai's wanted Gino in the past, there's yet to be a Mii costume for Gino in Ultimate as opposed to Smash 4. Gino, spirit or not, icon or not, whatever that image was, still holds a promising shot as DLC for the game. My second prediction is Bandana Waddle Dee. After Piranha Plant was added, there's no argument going against Bandana Waddle Dee with the whole generic enemy debate, despite I'm pretty sure Bandana Dee is more than just your average Waddle Dee. His spear would provide a more unique flavor, not just adding a new Kirby character, but also a never before seen spear wielder. He could use it as a helicopter, use it for different jabs and smashes, he'd have good range, he'd bring in a Kirby Star Ally stage with some Kirby music between Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot, and Star Allies, and Bandana Waddle Dee makes a lot more sense now after Piranha Plant. That and Bandana Dee is one of the most iconic and popular Kirby characters. The Bandana Waddle Dee, not the regular Waddle Dee. My third prediction is one of 2 characters, both of which are ladies from Fire Emblem. We all know how Sakurai and his team love Fire Emblem. That's why we have more Fire Emblem characters than Zelda and Smash, which is honestly disgusting. And since Nintendo's recommending DLC, they're likely going to use a new Fire Emblem character to push Fire Emblem 3 Houses. And many people are going to reasonably complain about more Fire Emblem characters in Smash. Edelgard, which is looking to be the main character, seems incredibly likely, almost like a lock. And as far as I know, she uses a spear, which is something the Fire Emblem cast desperately needs in Smash Bros. Since we have 7 sword wielders, 4 of which are a variation of one character. A spear user would help make the Fire Emblem cast feel fresher in Smash, like having Bandana Dee, and she'd bring some new music from 3 Houses and a stage from the same game. But something tells me there's someone else they'd pull from Fire Emblem for some unknown reason if Edelgard wasn't the pick. I think if they didn't go with Edelgard, they'd actually use Fjorm from Fire Emblem Heroes. Heroes is stupidly popular. Since the beginning of this fall, the game's generated over 14 million downloads and generated over $437 million for Nintendo. The install base is smaller than Super Mario Run, but the game is just significantly more financially lucrative, and Nintendo's likely going to look at those sales and think, people must love the hell out of Fire Emblem Heroes. Why don't we promote that game some more? People love that game, people like Fjorm as well, and she also uses a spear, her Lance of Ice, Lecter. She'd feel like a bigger surprise than Edelgard, mainly because she'd be the first character from a mobile Nintendo game in Smash, and that'd be pretty major, apart from the fact they both use spears instead of swords. Either character seems very likely as DLC, with Edelgard being the more predictable option, and Fjorm being more surprising. The fourth prediction I'm making is Viridi, and I know part of this is more of a request, but for some reason, after that direct, I have more confidence at Viridi being playable. Her hologram and reset bomb forest could easily be replicated or changed, or it may not matter at all given how Duck Hunt and Piranha Plant are both characters and stage hazards at the same time. She's small, has a scythe, has weapons themed after her like the Viridi Claws and the Viridi Palm, a multitude of powers from Kid Icarus Uprising they can use, her Forces of Nature, her Reset Bomb, her Lunar Sanctum. There's definitely a lot of potential for Viridi to be used as her original character. She could bring in either her Reset Bomb Depot as a stage, her Lunar Sanctum as a stage instead of a final smash, or the Lightning Chariot base as a huge traveling stage and use music from Uprising since it has great tracks. There is plenty of potential with Viridi as DLC. Sakurai could capitalize on it, or not considering it's been a while since Uprising, and we've no basis on what Nintendo recommended for DLC. We'll see. The final prediction I have is Banjo Kazooie. I still think Banjo Kazooie has a good shot at being a character in this game, as he'd be a huge deal. His abilities and skills would lend a style similar to Duck Hunt, but his cartoony nature lends himself perfect for Smash. His series also got trademarked recently. He's a very popular, classic IP that Microsoft CEO has stated more than once to be open to the idea of the character in Smash. Nintendo and Microsoft have been extremely close recently, so the bridge work is laid out. A Banjo Kazooie stage with Banjo Kazooie music would be very fitting, and there's also a weird pattern I've noticed with DLC in that it seems third parties have a better shot at DLC, given almost half of Smash 4's DLC was third party characters. It all depends on whether or not Sakurai's willing to go through with the idea, and whether Nintendo doesn't mind building a bigger bridge with Microsoft. With Sony pulling out of E3 2019 and Nintendo and Microsoft taking the stage, the setup was practically made for Banjo Kazooie to be revealed as DLC in Smash, but who knows. So Gino, Bandana Waddle Dee, Edelgard / Fjorm, Viridi, and Banjo Kazooie I'm placing my bets on, and they seem generally safe, or at least Gino, Bandana Dee, and Edelgard / Fjorm do. And there's plenty of other characters I didn't even bring up. There's a chance Rayman or Rabbids will be in Smash given Nintendo and Ubisoft's relationship recently. There's a chance of a Gen 8 Pokemon coming. There's a chance for Begrudgingly Steve for Minecraft, and maybe Rex will be in the roster after all, despite Sakurai's wording on his Mii costume. There are plenty of others I could have brought more attention to, but I'm sticking my guns with those 5. Which characters are you expecting or hoping for in Smash Ultimate as DLC? Do you agree with my list or no? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more Smash Ultimate coverage and other videos of the like. Stay super.